they will at once pray for annihilation. The life of Muhammad. Islam eliminates its Jewish problem. The crossroads of the empires. At the dawn of the 7th century, the two great empires of Byzantine and Persia confronted each other across the Middle East. The Byzantine Empire, to the west of Arabia, was the descendant of the classical Roman Empire and was almost completely Christianized. To the east was the Persian Empire, extended all the way to Afghanistan. Neither empire attempted to control the Arabian Peninsula. The vast desert was simply of little interest. Pre-Islamic Arabia. The desert, nomadism, and tribal life were essential features of pre-Islamic Arabia. The Arabs were herdsmen, raiders, and mercenaries. The Bedouin, nomadic desert Arabs, followed their flocks of goats across the burning desert, from one isolated oasis to the next. The camel, their main means of transportation, contributed much to their way of life. Some desert nomads established small towns, the most important being Mecca. The Bedouin were illiterate and superstitious, but also rugged, proud warriors, known for generosity. Political loyalty of the Arabs was affixed to their tribal group, which was a social, political, and military alliance. The Arabian desert was, and still is, a world where a lone individual can quickly perish. Only by allying with others could one hope to stay alive in the harsh desert reality. Religions of Arabia. The Arabs were polytheists. The religions included worship of astral divinities, such as Alat, a sun goddess. Arabs made sacrifices and offerings to deities, embodied in trees or sacred rocks. By the year 600 AD, just prior to the life of Muhammad, Christian and Jewish settlements were prevalent in Arabia, especially in the oasis town of Yathrib. The city of Yathrib, later Medina, lay 250 miles in an oasis north of Mecca. The 11 main clans of Yathrib included 3 Jewish tribes: Qurayza, An-Nadir, and Kainuka. The politics of Yathrib was characterized by fighting, strife, and disorder among the Arab tribes, with the Jews acting as a counterbalance. Mecca's importance was its location midway along the west coast of the Arabian Peninsula and near the Red Sea. The arid desert town was a way station for wandering nomads in camel caravans, often 2,000 camels long, carrying spices, metals, silk, ivory, and food. A booming merchant class arose from the constant influx of travelers and merchants. Mecca was also home to a sacred rock, a black stone, enshrined in the Kaaba by Arabs for many centuries. The Kaaba made Mecca a holy site for religious pilgrimage, as well as a center of commerce. The call to prophethood. Muhammad was born into the Quraysh tribe in Mecca around 570. In the year 610, Muhammad received the call as he approached the age of 40. The event is described in the Quran as a sudden explosion. One night on Mount Hira, where Muhammad spent a month each year, he was visited in his sleep by the angel Gabriel, who commanded him to begin reciting. It followed that the angel Gabriel would be the channel of communication between Muhammad and God, and the revelations would come in fragments, which would make up the Quran. At first, Muhammad was confused by his experience. He told his wife Khadija what had happened, and she believed him. Next, Khadija told Muhammad's story to a Meccan Christian, who said that Muhammad was the prophet of his people, that he had been approached by the same spiritual force with whom Moses, the great leader of the Jews, had communicated. While asleep, the angel Gabriel took Muhammad on a supernatural journey to Jerusalem, where he met Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. After leading them in prayer, Gabriel took him to visit heaven. Muhammad later recited this experience to Christians, who confirmed his description of the topography of Jerusalem. Muhammad was now convinced that God had indeed chosen him for a special mission. Opposition and rejection. In 613, Muhammad began preaching in Mecca, but won few supporters. For the first 3 years, the new religion was simply a private matter, though Islam would soon develop into a complex religion with many doctrines, rituals, and traditions. During these early days, Muhammad's message was simple and direct. Muhammad was a prophet of the one, true God, Allah, who created and ruled the universe. All must praise and worship Allah. All believers were equal in the eyes of Allah, and the rich should share with the poor. There is a coming judgment day when all mankind would be judged and assigned an afterlife by Allah. Muhammad expected Christians and Jews to accept him as the latest of God's prophets, the final extension of their monotheistic beliefs. When acceptance did not come, Muhammad was greatly disappointed. Arab polytheists simply did not take him seriously in a society of many faiths and gods. Slowly, Muhammad won Meccan converts, and relations between the prophet and the pagan Meccans deteriorated as he verbally attacked idol worshippers and pilgrims who visited various deities at the Kaaba. The Hijra. In the year 622, tribesmen from Yathrib met Muhammad at a fair where he was preaching. They embraced Muhammad for 2 reasons. First, the Jews of Yathrib had familiarized them with the idea of the coming of a prophet. Second, they thought Muhammad, as a religious figure, might unite the people of Yathrib and provide a solution to their communal strife. Muhammad immediately ordered his followers to leave Mecca and immigrate to Yathrib. Muhammad's immigration to Yathrib is called the Hijra. Muhammad's followers were called believers or Muslims. The literal meaning of Muslim is one who submits to God. The root of the word believer is submission, Islam, which became the name of Muhammad's religion. Following the Hijra, Yathrib became known as Medina, the Arabic word for city, as in the city of the Prophet. The Hijra marked the start of a new chapter in the history of humanity, as the political reign of Islam had begun. The Ummah. Muhammad founded the Ummah, the Islamic community, with God as the sovereign and Muhammad as the political authority. Religion and the power of the state were combined as one. Muhammad was the spiritual leader, chief judge, and lawgiver of the Ummah. It was not Muhammad's military position that led men to accept him as leader, but his prophethood and religious status. The political and legal authority was accepted only because of its religious basis. This would become the basis for Islamic government and loyalties of Muslims for centuries to come. The conflict with the Jews. Relations steadily broke down between Muhammad and the Jewish tribes of Medina. The Jews could not accept that Muhammad, a Meccan merchant, was their Messiah or prophet of God. For the Jews, if a prophet arising among Gentiles was genuine, then their basic ideology of Jews being God's chosen people was false. For Muhammad, if the Jews did not accept his prophethood and still maintain power and prominence in Medina, then he could not genuinely be God's prophet and messenger. The Battle of Badr. In March 624, Muhammad learned that a Meccan trade caravan was passing near Medina and ordered 315 men to prepare an attack against its 900 armed Meccans. The 2 small armies engaged at Wad Badr, a dry riverbed 20 miles south of Medina. The outnumbered Muslims fought bravely as their belief in God and paradise inspired confidence. Muhammad's forces defeated the Meccans at Badr and returned to Medina loaded with booty and prisoners. 4/5 of the booty went to the raiders, with the remaining 1/5 going to Muhammad for the good of the community. The Battle of Badr was not a mere military affair. It had profound religious significance for the Muslims. After years of hardship, they had been victorious over their original, more powerful foe. The success of Badr was thought of as God's deliverance from Muslims, not dissimilar to the Israelites' salvation from destruction at the hands of Pharaoh and the parting of the Red Sea. The Quran describes the event in religious terms. You did not kill them, but God killed them. You did not shoot and strike when you shot, but God shot, to let the believers experience good from himself. The first expulsion of Jews. Days later, Muhammad decided to rid Medina of Jews who had ridiculed his claim to prophethood. A large party of Muslims besieged them for 15 days in their strongholds. The Kainuka clan finally surrendered. They agreed to leave Medina with their families, but leave behind their arms and goldsmiths' tools. The Battle of Uhud. In order to maintain regional commercial operations, the Meccans had to show they were stronger than Medina and capable of removing any threat to trade. In March 625, 3,000 Meccans marched against Medina, confronting the Muslims at Uhud, a hill near Medina. In the battle, the Meccans killed 75 Muslims, while losing only 27 of their men. The Muslims, in fact, prevailed as the Meccan goal to remove Muhammad had failed. However, while the Muslims were not defeated militarily at the Battle of Uhud, the higher loss of men was considered a spiritual failure, since military and religious issues were inseparable. Why had they lost? Had they lost Allah's favor? As Badr was a sign of God's vindication, did Uhud signify loss of favor? Muhammad realized that Muslims had become too interested in the booty of war and forgotten their duty to God. Thus, God allowed the Muslim setback at Uhud as punishment for abandoning him, and as a test. Such were the religious issues created by the Battle of Uhud: soul-searching, accepting some blame, and a return to traditional values in the face of Islamic defeat would become an enduring theme throughout the ages. The second expulsion of Jews. In August 625, Muhammad demanded a contribution of blood money from the Jewish tribe of Anadir. The Jews refused, so he gave them an ultimatum: leave Medina within 10 days or be killed. They would retain ownership of their palm trees and receive part of the produce. The Jews again refused, and a 15-day siege resulted. Anadir lost heart when the Muslims began destroying their palm trees. They agreed to Muhammad's original demand, but now he imposed less favorable terms. They were to leave their weapons behind and have nothing from the palms. Anadir agreed and departed in a caravan of 60 camels for the settlement of Khaybar, 70 miles to the north. Houses and palm trees belonging to the Jews were allotted to the Muslims. The Siege of Medina. On March 31st, 627, the pagan Meccans began a massive effort to defeat Muhammad and break his power in Medina. The Meccans gathered a vast confederacy, including nomadic tribes hired to participate and numbering 10,000 men and 600 horses. Muhammad's men numbered only 3,000. The last remaining Jewish tribe in Medina, Qurayza, tried to remain neutral. With the enemy more numerous and possessing vastly superior cavalry, Muhammad adopted a new form of defense unknown in Arabia: the digging of trenches. The siege of Medina is known as the Expedition of the Khandak, or Trench. The Meccans tried to persuade the Jews of Qurayza to attack the Muslims from the south, but nothing came of it. The Muslims successfully repelled all assaults for 2 weeks. Suddenly, rain swept the battlefield, and the huge confederacy ended in disarray and withdrew. The execution of the Jews of Qurayza.